There may be many reasons why readers love Anne of Green Gables, but seeing Anne Shirley, who is many faceted, manifold, and complicated character, and witnessing this endearing character growing up are some of many pleasures this book offers. As Anne notes, there's such a lot of different Annes in me. I sometimes think that is why I'm such a troublesome person. If I was just one Anne, it would be ever so much more comfortable, but then it wouldn't be half so interesting. Readers enjoy watching Anne learn to successfully balance the different parts of her personality. Many other scholars, on the other hand, did not focus on the balance but emphasized one side or the other. Conformed Anne that upholds a domestic norm, or a rebellious and not yet conformed feminist figure. There have been many opinions and analysis about Anne throughout the years, but there is another important character who deserves attention as much as Anne, and that is Marilla Cuthbert. Margaret Atwood claims that Anne's change is not so significant and suggests that Marilla's changes outweighs that of Anne's. Quote, Anne herself doesn't really change throughout the book. She grows taller, her hair turns from carrots to handsome auburn. She talks less, though more thoughtfully, but that's about it. End quote. In other words, according to Atwood, quote, the only character who goes through any sort of essential transformation is Marilla. Anne of Green Gables is not about Anne becoming a good little girl. It is about Marilla Cuthbert becoming a good and more complete woman. End quote. Let's look at the journey of Marilla's motherhood, because it is her motherhood journey that stimulates the transformation of her life and character. By understanding Marilla more fully, it may open up a new and diverse analysis on representations of motherhood and possibly gender issues that are represented in Anne of Green Gables in the future. Taking into account previous studies' opinions about Marilla, she was considered either an agency of conformity or as a unique and modern type of a mother who makes a choice to become a mother, regardless of her marriage status or age. Marilla was an old spinster who lived with her brother on the outskirts of Avonlea. She never has been a mother before, but by adopting Anne, she is given the role of a mother and thus the new identity. And also, Marilla's decision to adopt Anne allows Anne's stories to exist. She is not Anne's biological mother, but she did give birth to Anne's life journey by accepting Anne to a place of Green Gables. Marilla's new role and identity as a mother has many interesting features. First, Marilla's mothering is rather a realistic and authentic version of motherhood that goes through mistakes and flaws, which violates the high standards of a good mother in her time. This marks Marilla's difference from most of other mothers in literature that rarely failed in depicting either an idealistic mothers or horrible mothers. Second, her motherhood served as a means of dissimulating otherness, which is another great unique feature of Marilla's journey. Simply put, her journey of motherhood is the journey of less than perfect but not evil either. During the economical and social tumultuous time of 1800s, with urbanism and imposing factories and young citizens looking for jobs to make their own living, the mother's role was considered even greater than fathers in parenting their children as moral citizens. Society viewed that mothers were becoming virtually the sole arbiters of family and child life, and increasingly convinced of formative importance of early childhood. And mothers were credited with formidable ability to shape the future character of future citizens. In the Mother's Magazine, published in 1833, described the need to awaken in mothers a deeper feeling on the subject of their responsibility, not only to their children but to the church and the world. The future defenders of the faith are now in the hands of mothers. End quote. In this sense, Marilla's idea of mothering through her childhood experience would likely have resembled the points made in the Mother's magazine mentioned above, as a teacher and a preacher who has the great responsibility and a sacred duty to bring up religious and moral citizen. From the very beginning of Anne's bringing up, Marilla shows her determination to fulfill these roles. The very night she decides to keep Anne, she is horrified that Anne never said prayers and exclaims, "Matthew Cuthbert, it's about time somebody adopted that child and taught her something. She's next door to a perfect heathen. Will you believe that she never said a prayer in her life till tonight?" Marilla was as fond of morals as the Duchess in Wonderland, and was firmly convinced that one should be tacked on every remark made to a child who is being brought up. She certainly rarely fails in pointing out Anne's excessive talking, imagining, and romanticizing. Marilla might fight back laughter or partly agree with Anne's thoughts, but she would not fail to scold Anne about her shortcomings, such as losing her temper to Mrs. Lynde or making overly frank comments about people like ministers' long and heartless sermons and Mr. Bell's prayers. Most of Marilla's parenting involves teaching Christian values and behaviors, household skills such as cooking and sewing, and providing protection. These were all duties asked of mothers in 19th century, which Marilla is very much aware of and tries her best. However, when looking at the Marilla and Anne's relationship, it is less of a mother-daughter relationship and more of a friendship or companionship. Marilla does not exhibit the characteristic of a controlling mother that puts her child under her mighty authority. Although Marilla's choice of words is not soft and gentle, Anne regards it as an advice rather than a command. Almost every comment or scolding Marilla makes are met by Anne's justification or explanation. Such conversation between Marilla and Anne goes something like this. Marilla: "You should have listened to Mr. Bell." Anne: "But he wasn't talking to me." Marilla: "It was putting flowers on your hat at all, no matter what color they were. That was ridiculous." Anne: "I don't see why it's any more ridiculous to wear flowers on your hat than on your dress." Marilla: "Yes, I told you to come at 2:00, and it's 2:45. I'd like to know why you didn't obey me, Anne." Anne: "Why, I meant to, Marilla, as much as could be. But you have no idea how fascinating Idlewild is." Marilla: "I never saw your beat for making mistakes, Anne." Anne: "Yes, and well I know it. But have you ever noticed one encouraging thing about me, Marilla? I never make the same mistake twice." Such conversations are not a sign of Anne's rebellion towards Marilla. Readers can see that Anne's responses are more of a guiltless innocence and not an intentional showcase of ill spirit or sourness towards Marilla's parenting. Instead, Anne's remarks are a sign that Anne takes much self-agency when it comes to changing her thoughts and ways. Anne mostly learns her lessons through her own experience and not so much through doctrines and rules she is merely told to keep. Anne put it in her own words by saying, quote, "I ought to grow up successfully, and I'm sure it will be my own fault if I don't." Through her mistakes and errors, she realizes new things, makes amends, and matures. In other words, Marilla's words to Anne functioned as an advice rather than an authoritative and forceful parenting voice for Anne. In addition, a role of teacher and preacher, as well as a warm and loving feminine mother, is replaced by other characters in this book, leaving Marilla as a listener, a witness, and a friend to Anne. As for the sentimental and gentle parent, Matthew takes his oar in for that role. He is always saying kind words and encouraging Anne not to give up on all her romance. Hence, the teacher, preacher, and a sentimental mother role are taken by Miss Stacy, Mrs. Allen, and Matthew. This distribution of roles alleviates the parenting role from solely being on the shoulders of a single being, a mother. As for Marilla, she's a listener and a witness of Anne's growth. The book mostly consists of Anne and Marilla's dialogue. Anne consistently talks to Marilla about what she thought, romanced, and experienced. There are not so much instances where the book records Anne's lengthy talks except when she is talking to Marilla. Readers get to know Anne's romantic thoughts, personality, and big words that she uses through Anne's conversation with Marilla, because the several pages long inside a single quotation mark talk only occurs in those conversations with Marilla. Events that happen in the book are also compiled in a form of Anne telling what happened to Marilla. Through Anne and Marilla's dialogue, we learn about Anne's past, her first experience of Sunday school, her school life, her visit to the city, picnic, tea party, and concerts. In a way, Marilla and Anne's conversations overweigh Anne and Diana's conversations in terms of length as well as frequency, placing Marilla as main listening companion. Though Marilla can come off as a strict and rigid character, the role of Marilla is ironically the role of a listener and a friend of Anne's. From the beginning, although she doesn't like listening to Anne's endless talks at first, she is the witness of Anne's thoughts and imaginations throughout the book. This position as a listener and a friend guides Marilla to be better situated inside the social fabric of Avonlea. The majority of scholars' views on Marilla could be narrowed down into two: seeing her as a rigid spinster who gradually softened up, and as an influential character that caused Anne to be pruned down. However, I would like to suggest a deeper understanding of Marilla's unique motherhood and a farther comprehension of her change, not only her emotional health, but a healthier sense of belonging. Marilla is a mother by choice, who is more of a friend going through mistakes and learning and growing with her child. Motherhood for Marilla is a transformation towards growth in emotional capacity as well as a sense of social belonging. To wrap up, the unique mother and daughter relationship, how she is different from the rest of conventional mother figures from her time, and how Anne's progress of belonging is a mutual one with Marilla are some of the issues that I would like to present.